It is a day like any other. The sun rises over a sleeping city, its first rays glinting off glass towers and warming the quiet streets below. In homes across the metropolis, alarms begin to sound. People stir from their sleep, starting their daily routines. They make coffee, prepare breakfast, get their children ready for school. The sounds of a city waking up begin to fill the air. Cars join the steady stream of traffic on highways. Trains pull into stations. Buses start their routes. Millions of lives are in motion, each following a familiar and predictable path. It is a scene of ordinary life, repeated in countless cities around the world every single morning. This sense of normalcy is a fragile thing. It is built on the assumption that today will be just like yesterday. Without warning, the world is bathed in a light of impossible intensity. It is not the light of the sun. It is a flash brighter than 1,000 suns. A silent, searing glare that erases shadows and burns its image onto the retinas of anyone facing it. For a brief, terrifying instant, everything is pure, white light. There is no sound, only the overwhelming visual stimulus that overloads the senses. This is the thermal flash of a nuclear detonation. The detonation of a single nuclear weapon is a local event with global implications. At ground zero, the city is subjected to forces that defy comprehension. Intense heat radiates outward. A supersonic blast wave flattens buildings. The urban landscape becomes a field of rubble. Those closest to the explosion are vaporized instantly. Many more suffer catastrophic injuries from the blast, from the heat, from the initial burst of ionizing radiation. The city's infrastructure is crippled in seconds. Power grids, water systems, hospitals, communication networks. This creates a humanitarian crisis. But effects don't stop at the ruined city's edge. The explosion punches a hole through the atmosphere. Debris and radioactive material are carried high into the sky. This forms the iconic mushroom cloud, a towering column of superheated gas, smoke, irradiated particles rises to the stratosphere. High-altitude winds can carry these particles across continents, across oceans. This is radioactive fallout. Our journey will begin the first 30 to 40 minutes following the detonation. This is the most chaotic and dangerous period. Immediate actions can mean life or death. We will explain the physics of the blast in simple terms. We will cover why you must never, under any circumstances, look at the light. Arrival of the shockwave, collapse of buildings, flying debris and immediate dangers, prompt ionizing radiation, deadly, travels at light speed, electromagnetic pulse, instant electronics shutdown, expanding the timeline to the first critical 24 hours. Threat shift to radioactive fallout. Threat shift to spreading fires. How fallout is formed. How fallout travels on the wind when fallout begins to arrive. Finding or creating adequate shelter is paramount. State of the city after the blast. Fires merging into a firestorm. Broken water mains contaminating supply. First responders as early casualties. Hospitals overwhelmed or destroyed. The event begins not with a sound, but with an impossible, silent brilliance. At the exact moment of detonation, a significant portion of the weapon's energy is released as thermal radiation. This is a massive pulse of heat and light that travels outward at the speed of light, preceding everything else that is to come. For anyone within the line of sight, the world is instantly and completely submerged in a flash of pure, white light, far brighter than the sun itself. This initial burst lasts only a few seconds, but it is long enough to inflict catastrophic damage. It is a silent, searing wave that carries an immense amount of energy, capable of igniting fires and causing severe burns miles away from the point of explosion. This energy is absorbed by any dark or flammable materials it encounters. Clothing, paper, dry vegetation, paint on buildings. The heat is so intense that it can melt asphalt on roads and turn sand into glass. For a person, the effects are horrific. Exposed skin is scorched in an instant. resulting in third-degree burns over vast portions of the body. Section 2. Don't look at the light. There is a natural, primal instinct to turn toward a sudden flash of light. It is a reflex that in this one specific scenario could be a fatal mistake. The instruction, "Don't look at the light," is perhaps the most critical piece of immediate survival advice. The thermal flash is so incredibly bright. Even for a fraction of a second, looking directly at it can cause permanent eye damage. The intensity of the light is sufficient to burn the retina. The retina, the light-sensitive tissue at the back of the eye. This results in a condition known as flash blindness, or in severe cases, irreversible, total blindness. The light is literally powerful enough to cook the delicate cells of the eye. The safest immediate action upon seeing the flash is to duck and cover. This means immediately dropping to the ground, tucking your head and neck under your arms, and closing your eyes tightly. If possible, get behind any solid object that can shield you from the initial flash. This simple act serves two purposes. It protects your eyes from the light, and it positions your body to better withstand the coming shockwave. It is a conditioned response taught during the Cold War, and it remains fundamentally sound advice. Section 3. The speed of sound, the force of a hurricane. After the silent flash of light, there is a brief, eerie pause. The duration of this quiet moment depends on your distance from ground zero. For several seconds, the only evidence of the event is blinding light, scorching heat, growing fires. But the next wave of destruction is already on its way, traveling at the speed of sound. This is the blast wave, or shock wave. It is a wall of compressed air moving at supersonic speeds, carrying with it an incredible amount of force. When it arrives, it does so with an explosive, deafening roar that shatters the silence and marks the beginning of the physical destruction of the city. The shock wave is not like a strong wind. It is a physical impact. The front of the wave is a sudden, massive increase in air pressure, which is then followed by a powerful, sustained wind. This overpressure is what demolishes buildings. It slams into structures with immense force, causing them to collapse as if they were made of cardboard. Windows shatter first, turning into millions of tiny, razor-sharp projectiles that fly inward at lethal speeds. Then, walls and roofs begin to fail. The force is so great that it can lift vehicles off the ground, uproot trees, turn any unsecured object into a deadly missile. The wind that follows the initial pressure wave is just as destructive. These blast winds can reach speeds far exceeding those of the most powerful hurricanes on record. Section 4. The crushing weight of the world. As the shockwave rips through the city, the built environment begins to disintegrate. Buildings are simply not designed to withstand this kind of pressure. Closest to ground zero, even steel-reinforced concrete skyscrapers are obliterated, their structures pulverized into dust and rubble. Farther out, residential homes, office buildings, brick structures. The sound is a cacophony of destruction, the groan of twisting steel, the splintering of wood, the explosive shattering of countless panes of glass, the deep, rumbling roar of entire buildings collapsing in on themselves. The sky darkens as a massive cloud of dust and debris is thrown into the air. That dust mixes with smoke from newly ignited fires. For those inside buildings, the experience is one of violent, chaotic motion. The world is shaken as if by an earthquake of impossible magnitude. Floors heave, walls buckle. Furniture is thrown across rooms with incredible force. The sudden implosion of windows sends a spray of glass shards flying through every room. Then comes the collapse. Ceilings and floors give way, pancaking down on top of one another, crushing everything and everyone below. To be trapped inside a collapsing building is to be buried alive under tons of concrete, steel, and rubble. Survival in this situation is almost purely a matter of luck. The very geography of the city is altered in these few seconds. Streets become impassable, choked with mountains of debris. Bridges twist and fall into the rivers they once spanned. Overpasses and highways crumble, cutting off all major transportation routes. The familiar urban landscape is rendered unrecognizable, a jagged, treacherous wasteland of broken concrete and twisted metal. Simultaneously with the thermal flash, another invisible wave of energy is released. Prompt ionizing radiation. This is a highly energetic burst of gamma rays, neutrons. They emanate directly from the nuclear fission and fusion reactions at the heart of the explosion. Like the thermal pulse, it travels at nearly the speed of light, but unlike the light, it can penetrate through solid materials. This radiation is intensely lethal. For anyone close without significant shielding, it delivers a fatal dose in less than a second. It is an instantaneous, inescapable threat for those in the immediate vicinity of ground zero. This radiation attacks the body at a cellular level. Gamma rays, neutrons pass through human tissue, stripping electrons from atoms and breaking down complex molecules, including DNA. This cellular damage causes acute radiation syndrome. Initial symptoms can appear within minutes to hours and include intense nausea, vomiting, fatigue. The radiation destroys the body's ability to produce new blood cells by damaging bone marrow. It also attacks the lining of the gastrointestinal tract, leading to severe internal bleeding and inability to absorb nutrients. At high doses, it can directly damage the central nervous system, leading to seizures, coma, death within hours. The amount of prompt radiation an individual receives depends heavily on their distance from the explosion and the amount of shielding between them and the fireball. Dense materials like thick concrete, earth, lead. Being in a deep basement or an underground shelter can significantly increase chances of survival. However, for those caught in the open or in light-frame buildings, the dose will be overwhelming. Prompt radiation is primarily a threat in the first minute after detonation, as radioactive particles disperse. For certain nuclear detonations, particularly high-altitude blasts, there is another immediate, far-reaching effect: the electromagnetic pulse, the EMP, an intense burst of radio frequency energy created when gamma rays hit the atmosphere and Earth's magnetic field. The pulse radiates outward for hundreds, even thousands of miles. Visualize on the map. It doesn't harm people directly, but it destroys modern electronics. The EMP is like a massive, instantaneous power surge, overloading and frying unshielded circuits. The consequences are immediate and catastrophic. The power grid is among the first victims. Long transmission lines act like giant antennas gathering the pulse. Massive transformers overload and burn out. Result: a widespread long-term power outage. Without electricity, modern life grinds to a halt. Lights go out. Refrigerators stop working. Water pumps cease to function. The blackout is instantaneous and can span a continent. EMP cripples virtually all modern communications. Cell phones go dead. Landlines go silent. The internet and servers go offline. TV and radio broadcast stations go dark. The delicate microchips at the heart of these systems are highly vulnerable. That means no way to call for help, no way to receive official information, no way for the government to coordinate a response. People are isolated, cut off, and in an information vacuum. EMP also disables most modern vehicles. Cars stall, trucks stall, airplanes dependent on electronics can fail. EMP fries vehicle control electronics, transport grinds to a halt, emergency supplies can't move, evacuations can't happen, first responders can't be deployed effectively. The silent shutdown can throw society back to a pre-industrial age in the blink of an eye, compounding the blast devastation. In the seconds and minutes following the initial thermal pulse and the arrival of the shockwave, a new and terrifying threat begins to emerge. The thousands of individual fires ignited by the heat flash start to grow and merge. Broken gas lines, ruptured fuel tanks from cars, storage facilities add fuel to the flames. The blast wave, while destroying buildings, exposes more flammable material and spreads the fires. In a dense urban environment, These blazes can coalesce into a single massive conflagration, a firestorm. A firestorm is more than a large fire. It generates its own weather system. Heat rises, drawing in vast quantities of air. This creates hurricane-force winds, rushing inward, feeding the fire with oxygen. Winds can uproot trees and prevent escape. The fire becomes inescapable, burning with incredible intensity. The temperatures inside a firestorm can reach over 1,000 degrees Celsius, around 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hot enough to melt metal, melt glass, and completely consume everything. The air becomes superheated and unbreathable. Even underground shelters can be at risk, as the fire consumes available oxygen, leading to asphyxiation. The firestorm creates a hellish, virtually inescapable environment. It self-perpetuates and can burn for hours, long after the blast. As you plan for the days and weeks ahead, you must confront the reality of medical care in a collapsed world. Your emergency first aid kit is not just for minor cuts and scrapes, it is now your hospital. This emergency first aid pack is designed for swift and safe use, containing all the essential items you need in case of an emergency. It's a comprehensive kit to ensure you're prepared for unexpected situations, providing the tools needed for safe first aid application. You must be prepared to be your own doctor. This means having the supplies and the knowledge to treat common injuries and illnesses. Your kit should contain more than just bandages and antiseptic wipes. Tourniquets, pressure dressings, burn cream, gels, pain relievers, prescription medications. A good first aid manual is an essential part of this kit. You must be prepared to deal with the medical consequences of the event. Treating burns, setting simple fractures, managing infections with your limited supply of antibiotics. You also need to be able to recognize the symptoms of radiation sickness. Nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue. These can appear within hours of exposure. While there is no cure for a high dose of radiation, you can provide supportive care, keeping the person hydrated, managing their symptoms, making them as comfortable as possible. Understanding basic medical triage will be critical if you are with a group of survivors with varying injuries. No one can survive this alone. The long-term strategy must involve community. As you listen to your radio, you may hear information about designated shelters or community collection points being established. When official sources confirm that it is relatively safe to travel, moving to one of these locations could be your best option. A larger, organized group has a better chance of survival than isolated individuals. Pooling resources, sharing skills, collective security, psychological support. Your individual family plan should eventually merge into a community survival plan. Preparing for the long haul means shifting your mindset from short-term survival to long-term recovery. Secure a sustainable source of safe water, test and grow food in a potentially contaminated environment, establish a system of governance and mutual defense. The first 24 hours are about surviving the blast. The first week is about surviving the fallout. But everything after that is about surviving with each other. Your emergency kit, your radio, your knowledge are the tools that will get you to that point. They are the bridge from chaos to community, from surviving the day to planning for a new tomorrow. We have journeyed from the silent, blinding flash of a single nuclear detonation to the long, dark shadow it casts across the globe. We have seen how one event, in one city, can initiate an unbreakable chain of consequences. The immediate destruction from the blast, the heat, and prompt radiation is only the first link. This is followed by the insidious spread of radioactive fallout, which poisons the land, the water, and the very air we breathe. The soot from a city-sized firestorm, injected into the stratosphere, can shroud the globe in a man-made twilight. This leads to a sudden and unnatural cooling of the Earth's surface, disrupting weather patterns and triggering widespread droughts. The delicate chemistry of our atmosphere is thrown into chaos, leading to a severe depletion of the protective ozone layer. This, in turn, allows harmful ultraviolet radiation to bombard the surface, threatening crops, wildlife, and the microscopic phytoplankton that form the very base of the ocean's food web. The local attack becomes a global environmental crisis. This environmental disruption leads directly to a global food crisis. The combination of cooling temperatures, shorter growing seasons, drought, and increased UV radiation would cause massive crop failures in the world's breadbaskets. At the same time, fallout contaminates existing food and agricultural land, while the ocean's fisheries collapse. The intricate, just-in-time global supply chains we rely on would shatter, leading to hoarding, export bans, and skyrocketing prices. The result would be a global famine, with hundreds of millions, or even billions, of people facing starvation, far from the original blast. The ultimate death toll from a single nuclear weapon is not counted in the first hours, but in the years of hunger that follow. Finally, the chain of consequences binds itself to our very bodies and our future. For the survivors, life becomes a long vigil against the unseen damages of radiation. Cancers, heart disease, and a host of other illnesses become a delayed harvest of the explosion. The psychological trauma of witnessing such horror leaves an invisible, indelible scar on the minds of all who lived through it. Most disturbingly, the potential for damage to our DNA means that the consequences can be passed down, a heritable legacy of suffering for generations yet to be born. The detonation of one bomb is an attack on the past, the present, and the future of humanity itself. The picture we have painted is grim, and the scale of the potential catastrophe is difficult to comprehend. It is easy to feel a sense of hopelessness. However, the purpose of this journey is not to inspire fear, but to empower you with knowledge. While the only true victory is preventing the use of these weapons, understanding the nature of the threat is the foundation of survival if prevention fails. Panic is a luxury no one can afford in the aftermath. A clear, calm understanding of the timeline of events and the specific dangers at each stage is your most powerful defense. It lets you make rational decisions when the world has descended into chaos. Your survival plan should be built on this knowledge. It begins with duck and cover at the first sign of the flash, protecting your eyes and body from the initial pulse of heat, and preparing for the coming shockwave. Then, the urgent race for shelter in the first hour. Put as much mass as possible between you and the outside world. Know the best shelter in your home, your workplace, and your community, a deep basement, the center of a large building, and have a plan to get there. These simple preparations can dramatically increase your chances in the first violent phase. Then shift to endurance. Shelter in place for a minimum of 72 hours, ideally 2 weeks or more. Store safe drinking water. Stock non-perishable food. Keep a robust first aid kit. Have an emergency radio. Stay inside so the most intense fallout can decay. Know decontamination procedures to keep your living space safe. Manage your resources, your time, and your morale. Preparation is an act of hope. Individual survival is tied to community survival. Be self-sufficient, but aim to reconnect and rebuild. Your emergency radio is your lifeline. Follow official guidance. Share information with your neighbors. Pool resources. Pool skills. The threat of nuclear weapons shows our capacity for self-destruction, but our ability to plan, to prepare, to cooperate, and to endure shows our will to live. In the darkest times, knowledge is not just power. Knowledge is survival.